Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and its Ukrainian proxy forces. Now, today we are starting off in the Kupiansk and Oskil River sector of the conflict. We have been covering the ongoing Russian offensive that is taking place in the Donbass. But if you go further to the north, there are preparatory operations underway by Russian forces that merit some observation in terms of what is happening. And not only that, we are also taking a close look of what is essentially the restructuring of the Russian armed forces. Now, this restructuring from brigade sets to divisional sets that are more in line with large, high-intensity military operations, the likes of which we are seeing in the ongoing war between Russia and NATO. Now, what is happening near the Oskil River? Well, the Russians have achieved a bridgehead over the western side of the Oskil River. You can see the river here, and you can clearly see where Russian forces have taken control of various areas on the western bank of the Oskil River. Now, this operation is being headed by the Russian 6th Combined Arms Army. Now, this army group is normally positioned in northwestern Russia, near the. Let's go to the Rondelli Foundation map, where the viewer can see the origination of the 6th Combined Arms Army. And normally they are based in the St. Petersburg area near Estonia, Finland, what have you. Now, if we go back to the Kupiansk sector, to this envelopment operation, this preparatory envelopment operation that is taking place, I want to take you to a unit that has been reformed, has changed, has gone from a brigade organization with the Russian military expansion to a divisional-sized military element. So you have major elements of the 6th Combined Arms Army conducting operations, what could be this pincer movement to the north and to the south of the vital Ukrainian city of Kupiansk that sits on both the west and the eastern side of the Oskil River Valley. But again, if you go up here and look at this unit here, that's kind of set back in this northeasterly direction. You have the 138th Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade. Now, that unit has changed. That unit has been expanded and is now the 69th Guards Red Banner Mechanized Division, or Motorized Rifle Division. Its a force construct, instead of being a battalion tactical groups, consists of the following formations. The 82nd Motorized Rifle Regiment, the 83rd Motorized Rifle Regiment, and the 15th Tank Regiment. Now, in a ordinary Russian organizational chart in terms of what is the composition of these units, so each of those motorized rifle regiments will contain between 2 to 3 motorized rifle battalions and 1 tank battalion. The tank regiment will contain 3 tank battalions and 1, possibly more, motorized rifle battalions as well. So a significantly larger unit in terms of combat power is being formed from the original 138th Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade. And this is just one example that we are seeing of this massive expansion in the armed forces of the Russian Federation. There are a multitude of Russian units that are now reforming as divisional-sized assault units. or divisional-sized formations that were once brigade-sized formations. In some cases, we have seen multiple brigades become divisional-sized units. In this case, we are seeing one brigade-sized element, the 138th, transforming, recruited, and being expanded into the aforementioned 69th Guards Motorized Rifle Division, which is more or less a mechanized division. Again, with approximately 5 tank battalions and about 7, possibly more, motorized rifle battalions. So a significantly larger unit than what existed with the 138th Separate Guards Motorized Brigade, which essentially was just 1 battalion of tanks and 3 motorized rifle battalions. Much, much larger. Probably a force about 3 times larger than what existed with the original 138th. And again, this is just one example. There are a multitude of examples where we're seeing this expansion taking place inside the Russian army. And this is all brought about by the ongoing war between the Russian Federation, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and its Ukrainian proxy forces. And that is what is happening. Now, what is the goal of the 138th, now a divisional-sized formation known as the 69th Guards Motorized Rifle Division? Well, again, we have this bridgehead now across the Oskil River. We have ongoing offensive operations that are taking place, obviously, in the Donbass. We have, if you look here at this unit, this is another element of the 6th Combined Arms Army, which is the 9th Guards Artillery Brigade. This unit is being heavily used to shell Ukrainian forces that are attempting to stop ongoing Russian maneuver units on the western bank of the Oskil River. But again, preparatory operations are underway by this Russian divisional-sized formation. What is it going to do? What is going to happen when the summer months arrive? Right now, it's very, very poor, very bad weather. It alternates between rain and snow, and if you've ever been in the military, it can be very difficult to operate in this kind of weather. I remember operating in some very, very cold. I would say the weather was probably single digits in the mountains of Kentucky, and I was in an armored unit, and the mud had frozen around the tracks of our armored vehicles, and we were essentially it was very difficult to even move the tanks because of the amounts of mud and muck that had frozen around the tracks of these armored vehicles. Just even getting out of your cot of your tent in the morning, when my boots had folded over and then froze in that position overnight. Very, very difficult situation if you're a soldier on the ground in that type of environment. And both sides are kind of dealing with that kind of terrain and weather obstacle that they are continuing to deal with. But eventually summer's going to come. And the question has to be asked, what are the Russians going to do with these divisional-sized elements that are now being formed and created behind the line of contact? And again, I've called this the winter of the Russian Iron Rain, and there's a reason for that. We are seeing the massive use of GLONASS-guided bombs, artillery, such as those being used by the 9th Guards Artillery Brigade, and then obviously the massive investment in drone warfare that the Russians have infused into its military. And that is going to take a toll over the winter. And then finally, when the warmer weather arrives, things dry out, what are the Russians going to do? All signs point to large-scale Russian offensive operations against the Ukrainians. And given the relationship, or lack of relationship, that is now being created between the U.S. administration and the administration of Volodymyr Zelensky. Again, the The money is being cut off. The intelligence, in all probability, is being cut off. The weapon systems being injected into the Ukrainian military is being cut off. And then you have to look at the morale that currently exists in the Ukrainian military. It is absolutely horrid what is taking place inside of the Ukraine in terms of the forcible conscription of Ukrainian men to be forced to the front lines. The morale that exists now with the Ukrainian military is night and day compared to the morale of the Ukrainian military that existed at the start of the conflict. These are essentially two different militaries now. The military of the Ukrainian army that existed prior to and at the start of the conflict, the first 6 months of the conflict, and the military of the Ukrainian army, again, completely different in terms of the makeup of the forces. Number one, a lot of older men now make up the ranks of the Ukrainian military. And then compounding that, the morale of these troops is incredibly low. So at the same time, these forces are being shelled day in and day out by the Russian military. And at the same time, behind the line of contact, these new divisions out of these older brigades are now being formed. And what we believe is for a very large operation by the Russians to eventually put an end to this conflict. And that's what they're preparing for. And we're seeing this essentially in a multitude of areas. We are seeing the Russians preparing for what could be a massive envelopment operation around Kupiansk with directed operations towards Kharkov. We are continuing to see Russian military buildup near Orikhiv. We are seeing Russian troops being deployed for possible renewed river crossing operations near the Dnepro, near Kherson. Again, this whole conflict could radically change come summer. And when President Trump was trying to articulate to Volodymyr Zelensky, you don't hold any cards, this is what he was talking about. The Ukrainian military that exists now is in no way or shape ready to deal with what's coming this summer. But we'll have to see what happens. Again, we will continue to cover what is happening on the ground. We will continue to bring you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth regarding this conflict. And as always, thank you for joining us. More to come. Good day.